Hello and welcome back to the Listening Lounge. My name is Nick Day, CEO of JGA Recruitment, specialist HR and payroll recruiters. And they say that listening is the secret to discovering the greatest of stories. And I'm joined today by one of the best storytellers there is. He's got so many stories. It's insane. He's going to share some of them with us today because I'm joined by Gary Goldsmith, an absolute lifer when it comes to anything related to recruitment and staffing, the things that I hold dear. He's got a glittering career spanning over 30 years. At 21, he was managing 3 regions. At 26, he started the contract business for SThree PLC. At 30, he was a multi-millionaire. And before he was 40, he was part of the team that took SThree public. 9 years later, he co-founded the Recruitment Leaders Lunch Club, which I'm part of, also known as the RDLC, which is the ultimate network for recruitment business leaders, consisting of over 300 members, 6,000 recruiters, and a combined revenues of over 2 billion. Yes, you heard that correctly. So Gary is known for being somewhat rebellious. He's strong-willed. He's a hell of a personality, incredibly innovative, and he's a tour de force in terms of everything to do with recruitment and staffing. So it's with some delight I get to welcome you to the Listening Lounge show today, Gary. How are you feeling over in sunny Ibiza?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I don't do these very often. I've kind of kept myself under that radar, but you are a beautiful person inside and out, and I would love to be here with you. So thank you very much for an intro. I'm
super excited. Well, you're a bit of an inspiration for me, so it's good to have you on the chat. I'm going to ask you the obvious question, Gary, which is what's driven you to achieve what you have?
But I still have an inbuilt passion and belief and drive that has served me really, really, really well. And I think that comes from my dad. I mean, proper humble stock. But both my sister and I were multi before we were 30. So there's obviously got to be something in either mother's milk or the water at home back in Hounslow. I think it's having a really strong work ethic that's massively important. So let me just tell a little story about mum and dad. So again, so mum was an accounts clerk, dad was a painter and decorator. He worked for a haulage company originally and was promised a business that never happened. He was one of 7. I remember going to his mum's house where they had a tin bath in front of a fire. That doesn't mean that I'm really old. That just means that they were kind of impoverished. They came from a different generation and a generation within a generation. But mum and dad worked really, really hard. So to look after us kids, and there's 10 years between my sister and I, and she is 10 years older. She doesn't look it. But if you think about, dad would go out to work really early to do some deliveries. He would come back and pass the baton on to mum. And mum then used to look after her. So he used to look after us, and mum went out to work. And then mum came back, and then dad went out to work. And then he came back, and mum went out to work. So they had 2 jobs each, dovetails, just to live, and just to thrive. But my mum was properly. I mean, my mum had dreams way above her station. She was called Duchess. She just wanted to have a passion to make the best of anything. So she used to go to evening classes to learn how to cook. So I've got to say we had quite a lot of coq au vin back in the day with some bottles of Blue Nun. So mum was aspirational, tried really hard, and my father, who is the nicest person that's ever walked this earth, just tried to make her happy. So I learned some pretty decent values at that point. So mum and dad really worked the best they could for us kids. I think that put inside me a fear of failure. I didn't want to be the one that let my parents down. I didn't want to let anybody else down, but most of all, I didn't want to let myself down. So life affords you opportunities, and if you don't just drag them in off the street and wring their neck and take everything you can out of an opportunity, then you're not doing right for you, your family, anyone who loves you. You just got to. I remember being in a meeting with our sales, our leadership director at SThree, and we had almost a stand-up row. Her name is Lynn Morton, and Lynn Morton said to me, "You should never be driven by fear of failure." And I will say to you today, Nick, bollocks. Fear of failure drives me to get up at 5 o'clock this morning to write this. It drives me to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to write 20 questions that you should ask people on emails that would drive better business. So if I look after my lot at that level and get up at that early and drive really hard and still get an hour's tennis in, so I can just be fired up, then nobody can look back at me and say, you didn't try it, so why do you expect me to try hard? So having that within your ethos, and I think that comes from mum and dad, and also whatever job that you do, please try to do the best of it that you can. So if you're going to put your t-shirts away in the cupboard, make them absolutely epic. You know, have that Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory effort to actually make everything absolutely immaculate. If you're going to make phone calls, make them immaculate. And I just think I'm just driven to be. I don't know anyone who's in recruitment who isn't, a bit psychopathic and nuts. And you just have to be. Embrace your nuts. Embrace it. And that's what Elon Musk. He's nuts, right? But boy, he thinks big. So just have audacious, ridiculous, stupid goals and get up at 5 and make them happen.
Love that.
That was a really long answer to a really easy question.
Listen, I'm just sat here listening. Genuinely, you've inspired me since we've met and to think bigger. And you've inspired over 300 recruiters daily, Gary. So you can have all the time you like. It's great, and you've achieved more than most ever will. So it's exciting. Well, listen, we've had conversations outside, obviously, of today, where you talked to me about being an entrepreneur, not an entrepreneur. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay, so I thought I tagged the name entrepreneur. I thought I owned that, but apparently it's the thing now. At the moment, it's very cool to start a business because everybody thinks they're the next Facebook, and it's bullshit. It's just wrong. It's just not everyone is set up or equipped to deliver those or to run a business. It's a really hard act to do, and people do it way too young. Don't start up a business at 21. You've got no idea. What you need to do is think about where you are in your career. So I'll give you an example. I'm an entrepreneur. Right? I've made all my money. I'm sat here in my lovely house in Ibiza. I'm spending 300 grand on a refurb. Right, and that all came from being an entrepreneur. So that's someone who went to work for somebody else to make money for them, and in return they gave me opportunity. And when people think about being an entrepreneur, it's about your creativity is set free and it can flourish. Again, hashtag bullshit. When I went to work for SThree, they had deeper pockets. All I had to prove to them that I was really clever, I had brilliant ideas, and then you have to back me or sack me.
Yeah.
And I was brave enough to say, I've got a vision. I know where this is going to go. Come with me.